The Forgotten Asylum. Lena Carter was a rising star in the world of urban exploration. Her YouTube channel, Lost and Found, had gained hundreds of thousands of followers who eagerly awaited her weekly deep dives into the abandoned and the forgotten. She prided herself on her fearless approach, until she received an anonymous invitation. A plain envelope had arrived at her doorstep, with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of aged paper with a handwritten message. If you seek true horror, visit Blackwood Asylum. Come alone. Midnight. She had heard of Blackwood before, a psychiatric hospital that had closed down decades ago after a series of horrific patient deaths. Local legends spoke of spirits that roamed the halls, of doctors who had conducted cruel experiments, and of an entity that still lurked in the shadows. It was irresistible. With her camera gear packed and her flashlight in hand, Lena set out for Blackwood Asylum, unaware that she was about to uncover secrets that should have remained buried. The asylum stood like a rotting corpse against the night sky. Its windows were hollow sockets, its crumbling facade draped in ivy. A rusted iron gate groaned as Lena pushed it open. The moment she stepped inside, a chill ran down her spine. She started filming immediately, whispering commentary into the camera as she made her way through the overgrown courtyard. The air smelled of mold and decay. As she entered the main building, the heavy doors creaked loudly behind her, and then slammed shut. She spun around, her heart hammering. "It's just the wind," she muttered, forcing a smile for the camera. But the silence that followed felt unnatural. Lena navigated the dark hallways, her flashlight beam flickering as if struggling against an unseen force. Peeling wallpaper revealed faded medical charts beneath, detailing archaic treatments. She stopped at a room labeled Patient Records. Inside, filing cabinets stood open, their contents scattered. She picked up a file and read aloud. Name, Evelyn Harper. Diagnosis, hysterical psychosis. Treatment, experimental therapy. Result, deceased. A low whisper brushed against her ear. Her breath caught in her throat. Spinning around, she found nothing but empty darkness. The temperature dropped, and her camera's battery, fully charged moments ago, drained rapidly. Something was watching her. Further down the corridor, Lena found the treatment ward. The scent of antiseptic and something rotten lingered. Rusted operating tables stood in a row, restraints still attached. In the corner of the room, she spotted a film projector, its reel partially unwound. She cranked it manually. The image that flickered onto the wall made her blood run cold. Doctors in white coats stood around a woman strapped to a table. Her mouth was open in a silent scream as they inserted a device into her skull. The footage distorted, but a final frame remained burned onto the wall, her face, frozen in terror, her eyes hollow. Then the screaming started. The sound wasn't from the film. It was behind her. Lena turned slowly, every instinct telling her to run. A figure stood in the shadows, its limbs unnaturally long, its head tilted at an impossible angle. Eyes black as the void stared at her, unblinking. The whispers returned, growing louder, cacophony of tormented voices. Words formed within the chaos, "You shouldn't be here." Then, the lights went out. Lena bolted. Her camera swung wildly, catching glimpses of movement, shadows slipping through the walls, figures appearing in doorways only to vanish. She reached the staircase leading to the lower levels, but the asylum itself seemed to be shifting, warping around her. She had to keep moving. The basement door stood ajar. Beyond it, a staircase spiraled downward into darkness. A terrible, wet-breathing sound echoed from below. Something was waiting. The basement walls were lined with cells. Inside, skeletal remains clung to rusted bars, their jaws frozen in eternal screams. She moved deeper, the sound of her own heartbeat deafening. Then she saw it. A massive iron door marked Experiment 731. It had been forcibly sealed with chains and locks. Her shaking hands lifted the camera as she approached. The closer she got, the more the air thickened, suffocating her. A single, blood-stained handprint adorned the metal. A whisper in her ear, "Open it." With a deep breath, Lena pried the rusted lock. The chains unraveled, clattering to the floor. The door groaned open, revealing a pitch-black void. Then, two eyes blinked open within the darkness. The entity moved, a grotesque amalgamation of limbs and suffering, a thing that had been human once but was now something far worse. It lunged toward her, and the last thing she saw before everything went black was its outstretched hands reaching for her. Lena awoke, disoriented, in a room that shouldn't exist. The walls pulsed as if alive, veins of darkness creeping along the surfaces. The whispers were louder now, merging into agonized screams. She reached for her camera. The screen displayed a distorted feed, herself, but not as she was. Her reflection grinned back at her, eyes void-like and endless. A door creaked open behind her. Footsteps approached. The entity was no longer lurking in the shadows. It was coming. Days later, Lena's camera was found just outside Blackwood Asylum, its footage intact. Her voice trembled through the speakers. "If anyone finds this, don't come looking for me. Blackwood isn't abandoned. It's alive. And it's watching." The screen flickered. Then, just before the feed cut to static, a final frame appeared. Lena's face, eyes black as the void, staring directly into the lens. Some say she never left. Others say she still roams the asylum, trapped between the walls, waiting for the next explorer to arrive.